While Trump says, oh, the foreign countries will pay those tariffs, it's actually consumers mostly because they just raise the price and to try to benefit domestic manufacturers. And unfortunately, because America is living in a very globalized world, you can't just kind of unwind that globalization very easily. And so it's not like there's lots of American companies that are waiting in the wings to jump in on this opportunity. And so it is fairly ironic that if these tariffs go forward, then Americans could see a lot of inflation more than they already have. And that's a big issue that Trump won his reelection on.
Donald Trump has said that he will put tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China from day one in office. The president-elect will charge 25% on all goods coming in from Mexico and Canada and 10% from China. Politico's White House and Washington reporter Daniel Lippman told me this will be no surprise to voters.
He has been making lots of noise about these tariffs since day one of his campaign. And so the real question is, if this is a negotiating tactics, is this going to be a temporary tariff? Because will Canada, Mexico, and China go to his White House on day one and start to negotiate, and so those tariffs can be lifted? Or do they try to negotiate during this transition, even when Trump is not doing too much negotiating with foreign leaders? He's really more focused on staffing up his own administration.
The headline, of course, is always very attractive, especially to people who voted for Donald Trump. America first, tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada. What's the actual kind of practical result of this, though? What difference would it make? And how would America make up the shortfall, if there was one, in terms of those goods coming in?
Well, America buys billions of dollars of goods from Canada, Mexico, and China every single day. And so a lot of Americans' cars are made in Canada. We're buying tons of agriculture products from Mexico. We're buying tons of electronics from China and lots of other different things. And so while Trump says, oh, the foreign countries will pay those tariffs, it's actually consumers mostly because they just raise the price and to try to benefit domestic manufacturers. And unfortunately, because America is living in a very globalized world, you can't just kind of unwind that globalization very easily. And so it's not like there's lots of American companies that are waiting in the wings to jump in on this opportunity. And so it is fairly ironic that if these tariffs go forward, then Americans could see a lot of inflation more than they already have. And that's a big issue that Trump won his reelection on, blaming the Biden administration for raising prices. And so if he does the same thing with these tariffs, then he may pay a political price in the midterm elections.
And does he ever try to argue that, especially when it comes to something like cars, that's actually something that should be manufactured more in America?
That's his big argument. And you have to look at the last 30 years of American economic history in terms of, we thought that by opening up America's economy to interaction with China on a much grander scale, on other parts of the world, that would lead to greater prosperity for the US. And it did to many Americans. But to people who are actually making stuff with their hands in the Midwest, globalization has not really paid off very much. And so those are people that J.D. Vance especially talks to, people who are downwardly mobile economically. And you've saw tens of thousands of factories have shut down in America since the start of NAFTA, which is the free trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada.
Now, one other development: a federal judge has dismissed a major case against Donald Trump that he allegedly illegally sought to overturn the 2020 election. So, what on grounds has it been dismissed?
So the grounds on which Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, started to unwind these charges is that the federal government and the Department of Justice can't charge presidents when they are assuming office or going operating as president, because you can't be president. The theory in the Constitution says you can't really, and DOJ legal precedent says you can't be president and all the duties and responsibilities that goes with it if you're trying to battle criminal charges at the same time. And so this is leading Trump to declare total victory over all of those prosecutions from the special counsel about what he did on January 6th in the lead up, and also all those classified documents that he was storing at his Mar-a-Lago resort.
So that principle that you just outlined, then, does that mean that any of his other legal troubles might melt away as well?
The only charge that he may eventually pay the piper for is his New York felony conviction counts, because that was New York state charges, and so they can't just be dismissed. And so he was awaiting sentencing for that, and so they're likely to delay sentencing until after the presidency in 4 years. And so by that time, people and judges and prosecutors in New York may think, hey, this is old news. Let's just let him retire to Mar-a-Lago and not actually serve a sentence for charges that were seen as a lot of paperwork issues.
That is Daniel Lippman. He is Politico's White House and Washington reporter. Talking about some very serious and important things there. And throughout this, all I could think of was, how do you spell tariffs?
Because his administration is brilliant compared to these two losers. Jimmy Carter is a happy man. You saw him the other day voting. I think he voted for me. But only if they make their products here. This is it. Got to make their products. Everything is based on you got to make your products in America. No more making them in China, making them all over the place. And you got to hire American workers for the job. And if these companies don't make their products here, then they will pay a very stiff tariff when they send their products into the United States, where they're made by somebody else or some other country.
And for those companies who don't make their product in America, they will be forced to pay a very stiff tariff, and we will make it and take it. Hundreds of billions of dollars are going to come in through tariff dollars to benefit American citizens, and we're going to pay off debt and reduce your taxes still further. Again, I gave you the biggest tax cut in history. We'll be able to do it.
And that's going to bring down the cost, generally speaking, and we're going to have a whole new, we have a big announcement, and I won't tell you the name of his exact name. I think he's an incredible person, got an unbelievably wonderful wife named Catherine. So I won't tell